Welcome to the Floodland. I'm Colonel Demders, and today I'm collaborating with Vile Monarch to give you a few tips on how to survive in Floodland, a brand new post-catastrophe city society builder game on PC and Steam. Today we're going to go over the context of the game, the different clans you can play as, and the early game on your first island. Floodland is set in 2094, after the world has collapsed from the effects of the climate crisis and the ensuing wars that came from the mad scramble for resources and solutions. An unknown event plunged the Earth and those still living into a dark age, robbing them of any hope of a normal civilization. Your job is to guide a colony from surviving to eventually thriving in this desolate, flooded world. But before you get started, you have to pick which clan you want to start as. There are currently 4 choices, and each of them have their own worldview and traits. And this worldview will determine how they interact with other clans that you'll encounter, as well as how they act during certain tasks and events. The good neighbours want to protect individual freedoms, produce water faster, and have the option to enable night shifts. The Oak Hill survivors believe in traditional values and that customs should lead the creation of laws. All their members move faster and eat less food. The Fire Brigade want to work together and build a more organised and united world than the one before, and have reduced effects from crime, as well as a longer time for sickness to become lethal during epidemics. And finally Burkut 3, who want to improve upon the old world and avoid the same mistakes that led to catastrophe. They increased the level of precision specialisation for all clans by 1, and increased the speed of searching and collecting resources for all clans. You can choose from a range of different difficulty options, depending on if you just want to easily follow the game's narrative or really struggle for survival. You start out with a small encampment and a little group of 10 survivors. To start with, you have nothing, so priority number 1 is getting a sustainable base on the go, and then you can worry about everything else. To survive, your clan needs food, water, shelter, and building materials to build and maintain everything. To start out with, your camp can forage for materials by using these search and exploration markers. Depending where you select, the icon will change, as will the task your people will perform. Searching will order them to collect any resources in the area, and you can see what they'll be collecting when hovering over. Of course, try and hit as many resources in a single area as you can to maximise the resources per task. Exploring will cause the indicated area to have the fog removed and allow you to collect resources and build in the area. Choose carefully, as you can only perform a limited number of tasks that depends on the size of your storage and the number of assigned workers. And you can also use the task list to change the order and priority of these tasks. There are also several structures in the starting area that you can search to find more resources, so queue these up for searching early on to stockpile as much as possible. One of these structures will contain the 10 scouts your advisor sent ahead. You'll want to recruit these as soon as possible to get more people working. Once you have a nice collection of food and rubbish, you can get some buildings. First of all, you can upgrade your camp into a small storage. This increases your capacity for resources, the amount of workers it supports, and its working range. You'll also need to build some housing for your people. This will mainly be done with tents to start off with, which house 3 people each, but the building you found scouts in can also be renovated to house 5 people. Early on, your choices for food will be foraging huts and fishing docks. Each have their own radii, and you can see what they need to be within range of to work, so place them well in an optimal location and your people will get building. You should also build a field kitchen to cook any risky or raw food you collect. This will reduce the risk of people getting sick, so it's well worth the extra step before eating. All of these buildings will also need to be researched before they can be built. Research points are earned via progressing the story, and eventually from a building known as the study. You can use old world relics, which are found when searching buildings, to receive a large hit of research points. Later on, you can unlock research through man hours alone, but at a much slower rate. Once you have points, these can be spent on the tech tree, and while it looks really complicated, it's actually not so hard. The outer part of the middle circle is essentially your tech tiers. You start out with only the basics, and then learn how to use rubbish, wood, rubble, and so on. Researching each of these tiers unlocks new projects in the 4 tech areas: growth, survival, exploration, and well-being. These are each pretty self-explanatory, but just in case you need some clarification, growth has techs for producing more resources used in building and technology. Survival is all about producing resources needed to survive, such as food and water. Exploration is of course about making your way through the world to unlock more areas of the map, and well-being is all about housing and keeping your people happy and healthy. Most of the time, especially early on, you'll just be unlocking a tier and then all the buildings in it before progressing to the next one. The inner ring is all about the power station, which we'll cover in a later video. When placing buildings, you of course want to make sure they're getting the best production possible, but you also need to be careful to build everything close enough together that workers don't spend their entire day commuting. So maybe build a workplace with some housing quite near to it, rather than having one main housing area. With the more buildings you make, there also comes a high chance that some of them will face some sort of dilemma. For example, one of your water gatherers may come across a suspicious water filter. You have to decide whether to spend some resources to replace it, or ignore the concern. Depending on how you respond to these dilemmas, your people may face consequences or be rewarded, so choose very carefully and err on the side of caution. It is pretty dire out there after all, so getting your people sick, or angry, or both, is pretty bad news. There'll also be less serious dilemmas, like disagreements between your people, and you can choose from a list of options on how to respond. With all dilemmas, the leader of your constituent clan will advise you. Don't miss the speech bubbles that give you an indication of how their clan will react. To keep your people happy, it's normally best to go for the options that have their clan symbol attached, so if you stick to these, you won't go too far wrong. Once you have a stable little camp, you'll want to get exploring the map and search for a radio tower to contact other groups of survivors. If you explore all the land you can in range of your first storage camp, you should find the beginnings of an urban area. I like to build my second storage here and use it as a hub to explore and develop this area. You can build some tents here to reduce the problem of commuting taking a long time, and then get to work exploring the area, searching for nearby buildings, including the radio tower. You'll also come across another group of survivors here, which will be a welcome addition to staff all of your new buildings. You'll also probably need to reassign some workers from other areas to get this storage working, and I like to split the storage workers to equally spread between the two. Also, it's worth noting, all resources are shared between these storage piles, so you don't have to worry about ferrying goods back and forth to build and feed your people. Once you're done exploring, you can get to work rebuilding the radio tower, and once it's online, set off your first transmission to see who and what else is out there. And that's everything for today, but we've got 2 more videos coming exploring the mid and late game, so subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For now, that's all from me. I've been Colonel Damders, and I'll see you in the next one.